Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Dino Dream release. We have a Jurassic Park release, as we can see, with the huge logo right there on the front of the box. This is the Dilophosaurus, and as you can see, it is the Dilophosaurus looking back. There are actually two different versions of the Dilophosaurus that they have just released, and I'm going to review them separate because I feel like it just, it'll make the reviews a little bit shorter. It doesn't drag on for so long, and just make it more interesting to have two different reviews of them rather than just one giant review, because again, they are looking pretty good so far. And another thing, honestly, can we have a round of applause for the box art all the time on these Dino Dream releases? That is one of the coolest images I think I've ever seen related to these Dino Dream boxes, and just generally, again, is also a really cool shot of the Nedry scene that we had not ever seen in the film, so pretty neat. Really quite like that. You can see, of course, again, the box art looks absolutely fantastic. We can also see 80 up there, so I believe that is my limited edition number. And of course, as we move along, you'll continue to see that the box is extremely high quality. We obviously can see a shot of the model over here on the side. Apparently it's upside down now. Beautiful Jurassic Park logo up there on the top. If we actually turn it over here, you've got a nice shot of the East Dock sign, which is really cool. And then if we go ahead, turn it around to the back, and then flip it upside down, we can now see again Dino Dream, Dilophosaurus looking back, and you can check out all of the very cool images of the model that we have right here, as well as some information on the model itself. So I am beyond excited about this. I've been wanting a Dilophosaurus from Dino Dream for so long. So let's pop this box open and check it out. So as per usual, we've got a really cool card, and again, you can see my limited edition number right there, 80, and the card does feature the same incredible artwork that we saw on the front of the box, which I definitely approve of. Absolutely love that, and you can see the Dino Dream logo on the back. Really nice, very high quality cards. And then we have our model itself, and there is our Dilophosaurus from Dino Dream. And man, this is incredible looking here at first glance. Like, this might be the best Dino Dream model so far, which is really crazy, really saying something considering how honestly many models they've put out over the last year and a half or so, especially when it comes to their officially licensed products. And again, when it comes to a Dilophosaurus, this is actually somehow even better than I was expecting, and everything just looks so nice and so realistic on the model. There is some slight assembly that needs to be put together on it. You have to attach the cable, of course, that Nedry was using, as well as throw up the East Dock sign over there. Again, that's definitely a really nice touch, a really nice addition to the model. And I do want to recommend you guys do something. If you have not yet, if you happen to have, somehow missed this, I recommend checking out the listing on Lana Time Shop's website, because on their website, they actually have a very large, very thorough description from Dino Dream explaining the creation of not just this Dilophosaurus, but the other Dilophosaurus as well. And it is extremely interesting. I actually have read it twice now because it's so interesting. It shows you pretty much all of the ideas and everything coming through the pipeline to creating this model and where they got all of the information to create it. And it's super impressive just how thorough of a job they did to get to the point of the creation of this Dilophosaurus, making this, in my opinion, one of, if not the most accurate Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus models that you will find anywhere. It truly is incredible the lengths that Dino Dream had gone to just to make sure that they could create the ultimate Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus model. And again, two different versions of it. So this version, as we can see, is obviously recreating the scene in Jurassic Park where Dennis Nedry says, "Stick, stupid," and then throws the stick, and the Dilophosaurus then kind of turns its head to look back at the stick. And one of the things that they actually mention in the description on Lana Time Shop's website is the fact that they made sure that the eyes were focused perfectly on the stick. Now you can see the stick back here, and if you actually get nice and close, we can see our stick down here, and then we come up and you look at the eyes. Look how the eyes are focused perfectly down there on the stick. And you can see that if you move from the front, well, Maybe you could. I guess we'll have to look at that once we actually take the Dilophosaurus off the model and then get a closer look. But they really made sure to iron out the fact that the eyes, again, were looking directly down at the stick, really perfectly recreating the scene in Jurassic Park. So what we're going to do is actually move this over here, and then we'll bring our Dilophosaurus in, and we'll get a closer look at that first. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Dilophosaurus, you can see some really nice, quite impressive texturing to the skin, some nice scale detail. You can really see some scales kind of following along the jawline, as well as the scales following along the lips of our Dilophosaurus. I love the amount of coloration that is applied to the face of the Dilophosaurus here. We've got all sorts of greens and blacks. We can see like off-whites. We can also see browns, and there are even some slight hints of blues in there, which is super impressive. The sheer amount of coloration that is added to this Dilophosaurus. We can also see the eyes painted with a yellow, given a black pupil, and again, when we turn it to the front, there you can see the eyes are perfectly zoned in on us, basically, again staring down the stick that Nedry had just thrown, which is so nice to see eyes actually matching up. That's not something that you see every day, and honestly, look at how incredibly screen accurate that Dilophosaurus head sculpt is. That is fantastic. Another thing that I really like, and I almost didn't even notice it when I first pulled it out, is the fact that the mouth is slightly open. We can see it ever so slightly open, and we can actually see the teeth in there. And you can very easily see how open it is, because if we move it, we can actually see the colors of the Dilophosaurus popping up there through the mouth on the other side. So again, super impressive that they have that tiny little detail in there just to have the mouth open a little bit. I initially thought it was actually closed completely, but it's not. It is open slightly. But that's super, super cool. If we move back here along the course of the neck of the Dilophosaurus, we can obviously see that super sharp turn that the Dilophosaurus is portraying in its neck. Again, exactly as we see it in Jurassic Park, it really sharply turns its head back to look at where the stick had just been thrown. We can also see some really nice skin wrinkling down here in the throat of the Dilophosaurus, because that is technically where our frill would be relaxing currently. We do have a nice reddish tone that follows along the underside of the neck and throat through the course of that area of the frill, again where it's relaxed. And then we also have the really nice greenish tones, as well as the very dark tones that kind of lead out and pattern down through the neck of the Dilophosaurus. We can see some nice creasing and everything as the dinosaur has its head turned, and we can even see more patterning up here on the top of the frill as well, which isn't something that you see too often on Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus models. Again, showing you the lengths that Dino Dream had gone to really give us a beautiful version of the Dilophosaurus. And as we move down, we can see the patterning again extend out and really quite overtake the back of the dinosaur. We can see kind of like some scoots following along the spinal column up there as well. As you move down, you can sort of make out the shoulder blade. We can see the rib cage right here as we lead into the stomach of the Dilophosaurus, and they have added so much variation of green. I love that these areas, these darker tones that are basically like a black, have the appearance of being a black, but they also have, depending on the way the light hits it, a greenish tint to it, which is really cool. And I can only assume that's how it actually looked on the original animatronic from Stan Winston Studios, but I've never really paid that much attention to it, and I really like that about this one. I love that it has like that greenish tint to it. But obviously we can see all the darker tones come down, pattern down. They're also outlined with a lighter tone, and even more variations of greens. You can even see like yellowish greens and brownish tones as you lead closer back there toward the hip, kind of showing up here within the stomach, as well as, again, super impressive, quite vibrant scale detail, which you can really take notice to right here in the stomach region. As you lead up here, you can see the shoulder blade there protruding from the skin a little bit, leading down through the arm. We can see how the skin is stretching off of the stomach again, with the positioning of the arm of the Dilophosaurus leading down into the hands. We've got some really nicely sculpted fingers with some scoots down the fingers. The nails look really good. They're painted with a black. They have a nice genuine sharp look to them as well, and there is a reddish tone that sort of is like, I guess, dry brushed over the hands, kind of highlighting the detail, which we can see right there. Again, really nice paintwork on this figure. It may be one of the best painted Dino Dream models so far. As we move back further into the body, we can see the hip bone there protruding through the skin. We can also see more of the patterning. Focus camera, there we go. More of the patterning following down through the thigh. We can Get a nice look at the muscle definition of the thigh as well, and of course some more various scales as we lead down. And then as we hit the kneecap, you can see the patterning basically starts to disappear, and then we have some reddish tones picking back up like we saw in the hands. We can see the calf muscle nice big and bulging right here as well. And then as you lead down into the foot sculpt, you've got the scoots kind of following down through the toes again, and again more variation of color. You've got the nice reddish tones. Focus camera, we can see the nails again painted with a nice black. We've got dew claws as well, which we can see over there. Well, we could if we didn't lose focus. There we go. You can see the dew claws now on the opposing side, also painted. And then we move up here and we start to lead out into the tail. We can see all the creases in the skin. We can also see the darker patterning following along the back of the tail as we lead out. There's a really nice curve to the tail, quite windy looking curve to the tail as we lead out to the tip. And then if you look at it from this vantage point, that's a pretty cool shot right there of the Dilophosaurus looking back at us. And of course, if we look over here, I would say this is the more dominant side, which is, you know, kind of funny because it's the side we can see a little bit less of the body on in a way because the dinosaur has its head turned toward this side. But obviously you don't want to look at it from over here and display it this way where you can't really see the head sculpt. But because the head is turning toward us here, you know, it kind of obscures the neck, makes it a little harder to see. Same deal with the tail. The tail actually curves in this direction. So again, when you look at it from this vantage point, you know, it's a little harder to see it than what we see on the other side. But again, it is absolutely drop dead gorgeous from both sides. We can see all of the variation of color, and I love the fact that they have like the whites that kind of like speckle throughout the greenish areas that kind of follow near the darker patterning. You can see the rib cage again, the variations of greens, which looks super impressive throughout. You can see this hand is held up closer to the body, just showing a little bit of difference in the positioning of the arms. And you can also see again a little bit more of that darker patterning breaking up and leading out there into the arms. And as you move back, you can see the same type of patterning and everything, same impressive scale detail as we had seen on the first side of the thigh. And then leading down into the opposing side here with the foot sculpt, you can see the peg there, which is how we, you know, basically attach it to the base, and then you lead out through the course of the tail. And you can see a lighter tone here on the underside of the Dilophosaurus as well. And as you move along the underside, again, all sorts of slight variation of color. The paintwork on this is crazy impressive, and I would definitely say is one of the best painted models to come from Dino Dream. I also feel like they nailed the tones of color on this one. So the Dilophosaurus is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And then we also have the base, and the base is super cool as well because, of course, it basically recreates the scene from Jurassic Park where Nedry had, again, wrecked his Jeep, and he was basically trying to, you know, attach the cable here to the tree to see if he can kind of pull himself out of the spot that he was stuck. And we can see the cable, which is removable. Again, I just put that on there, so hopefully it's placed correctly here throughout. But you can also see as you lead down, again, the nice forest floor with some puddles and stuff because again it is raining. You can see a few of the sticks there within the puddle. Really nice genuine water look right there in the center of the base basically. But as you move up here, you can see more of that water, which I really like because right here, well, not far up here from this point, the waterfall would have been, you know, basically splashing water all over this spot. So I like that that has an even more wet look to it. We have, you know, variation to the vegetation here, quite a few different types of plants that you can see throughout the course of the base. Of course, the area looks really quite muddy. There's some nice variation of color to the mud as well. I think that looks really good. We do have a Jurassic Park logo over here, which of course is nice to see on the base. We can also see the stick here that Nedry had tossed to try to lure the Dilophosaurus away. Also sculpted and painted quite nicely. You can see it's actually sticking up here on the base. So it's not like it's just a solid piece of the base in there. You can see it's definitely an extra piece that was added after. And then we've got a tree over here. Focus camera. We've got the tree basically that Nedry is attempting to attach his cable to, and the sculpting of the tree is fantastic, honestly. It has some really nice impressive texturing, but I'm even more impressed with the paintwork. You can even see like greenish tones sort of giving it a little bit of like a mossy kind of a look as well, which is exactly what I would expect to see in this area of like a Jurassic Park forest. And you can see again some like, you know, different variations of browns as you move up, almost like some reddish browns and stuff as you lead up there toward the top of the tree. especially on certain spots. Again, as you move around, no two sides seem to look exactly alike, which I think also adds some nice realism to the tree and the base as a whole. And then if you actually look, let's see if we can get in here. If you actually look at the cable, you can see the cable as well as obviously just a string, but it looks pretty good. You've got the hook again right there, which also looks really quite nice. And then, of course, the icing on the cake for the base is the East Dock sign, which is really nicely done as well. We can obviously see that it's a little bit crooked because Nedry basically, I guess, just propped it back up, and we can obviously see that the arrow is no longer pointing in the direction of the actual East Dock. It also has a little bit of a muddy look to it, which is a really nice touch because, of course, it had just fallen down, so it should have a little bit of a muddy look to it. Definitely has a nice dirty sort of a look. The East Dock label itself looks really nice right there, and overall, again, it's honestly just a great addition to the model, really helping to sell the scene even more. So that is absolutely fantastic as a whole. And then here on the underside, we can see again Dino Dream Dilophosaurus looking back, and we can also see that the limited edition is 999, and I have 80 of that limited edition, which is actually a fairly low number, which is pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and put our Dilophosaurus back on the base. There's actually a really obvious place where you would put them because you can see, of course, the hole for the peg, but we can also see the footprint for the Dilophosaurus right there. So I just have to kind of slide back in here, find that little peg hole. There we go. And our Dilophosaurus is now back on its base. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at just shy of about 5 3/4 inches, or around 14.5 centimeters for a height on the Dilophosaurus. Now, of course, this is with the Dilophosaurus on the base. You can see it at about 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. The highest point of the base overall is the tree at about just shy of 4.5 inches or a little over 11 centimeters. And then for a width on the base, about 7.25 inches or a little over 18 centimeters. And then if we go for the opposite direction, you are going to see it at about 4 3/4 inches or 12 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Dino Dream Dilophosaurus looking back model. And we can see that again, the model is really quite nicely sized, but the Dilophosaurus by no means is huge. It is 1/15 scale, but the dinosaur is fairly small in Jurassic Park, so you can see roughly what the size is next to these figures. And just in case you wanted a size comparison next to a Mattel Dilophosaurus, you have one here, and you can see they're actually very similar in size. So if you do have a Mattel Dilophosaurus, you're going to know roughly what the size is of the Dino Dream version. Extremely similar to the Mattel version, just way better. Proportions are so much better. The paintwork is again way higher quality, and just generally a magnificent version of the Dilophosaurus from Dino Dream compared to the somewhat goofy looking version from Mattel. But if you do again have the Mattel Dilophosaurus, this should give you a pretty good idea of the size of the Dino Dream version. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the human figures from Mattel out. I don't usually take my Hammond collection stuff out of the package when it comes to the humans. I usually leave them in the box, so I can't really bring a Nedry in to compare here. Would have been pretty neat, but I don't really feel like opening and ruining my Dennis Nedry Hammond collection figure just for a comparison. But obviously you can see again roughly what the size is of a Mattel Dilophosaurus, and I can bring in the Robert Muldoon figure again and compare it next to the Dilophosaurus. So as you can see again, I wouldn't say the scale is perfect between a human Mattel figure and the Dino Dream figure, but they do look pretty fun next to each other. And for one final comparison, just to kind of help give you an idea of a size next to another Dino Dream model, we have the Lost World Jurassic Park Raptor on the window model here next to the Dino Dream Dilophosaurus, showing you that the Velociraptor is definitely a little bit bigger than our Dilophosaurus is. So Dino Dream continues to absolutely kill it with these releases. They are just releasing some of the coolest Jurassic Park models and statues that I have ever seen, and this Dilophosaurus as well is another perfect example of that. I love this model. It may actually be one of my favorites overall, may be my favorite from Dino Dream, but that's a pretty impressive thing to claim. I don't know, there's just so many that I love. I don't know if I could actually pick a favorite overall, but the Dilophosaurus looks great, and honestly even better than I was expecting. The sculpt of the Dilophosaurus is so picture perfect to the way it appears in Jurassic Park. They absolutely nailed every aspect of it to perfection from what I can recall. The sculpt looks incredible, perfectly recreating the scene where the Dilophosaurus kind of looks back again at the stick after Nedry had thrown it. I love the tiny additions of the eyes looking perfectly at the stick. That was just honestly genius on the part of Dino Dream to make sure that the eyes were perfectly placed, and it just looks so good because of it. Really helps to kind of take you into the scene even more. The paint of the Dilophosaurus is also super well done. All sorts of variation of color and nice depth to the paint job, making it look, really quite realistic and lifelike, and definitely has to be one of the best painted models to come from Dino Dream so far. On top of that, the base is super cool with all sorts of vegetation and the tree right there where the cable is attached to it. The paintwork of the tree, again, is also incredibly impressive with lots of variation of color, giving that a really lifelike look as well. But then you also have like the puddles on the base, and then there's like some sticks here and there and stuff. Just really tiny things that they've added to the base to help add a lot of realism to it. And of course, the Jurassic Park logo and the East Dock sign are just the icing on the cake for this one. So without a doubt, this is a must-have if you are a Jurassic Park fan. I highly recommend grabbing this one and adding it to your collection. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can grab this from Lana Time Shop right now. So make sure you check that link. Definitely pick this up, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.